All right, fellas. Let me just describe how things are gonna go moving forward with the league podcast that I know you all have been waiting for. Okay. Need to address a few things, and then we'll get into a lot of coverage. This is probably going to be a long podcast, so if you have a long commute to work, you can thank me later for that. Usually, I do deep dives into week one, power rankings and all that other crap too. First and foremost, I am fighting allergies, so I feel very, very stuffy, but I'm gonna power through this thing. Um, I wanted to honestly, and I'm still learning it. I figured I'd start. I didn't want to do a TikTok because then people can find my shit, and I know a lot of people don't have TikTok, so I did a YouTube short. We're gonna do the game ball segment. For those of you that did watch the actual video that I did drop, I bought like a Target NFL ball for like 20 something dollars. Each week I'm going to put the week one game ball person with the score listed above if it'll fit. I haven't tried it yet, but we'll take a look into that. And then that way the champion will not only get the actual Lombardi trophy, oh, I'm sorry, the championship belt, but they will also be getting the Lombardi I keep thinking Lombardi. They will also be getting the football. That's right. They will also be getting that game ball for the 2024 season. And I think I want this tradition to continue. I have been giving out game balls. Like, I kind of will just like jump it in there, but I wanted to do something a little bit different. Um, have the NFL primetime music in the background and whatnot. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to a lot of things, and there's a lot of things I want to break down. Um, this segment in particular is going to cover a lot. So we're gonna have our fantasy week one recap, my week one thoughts in general, waiver wire, and then we'll get into the good nitty gritty with the matchups of the week. So the other thing Johnny had mentioned, and I know he was trying to make a joke, but for whatever reason, this software that I have, I can only upload the voice recordings in 20-minute intervals, which means that even if I get an image and have it on to the time that it has to be extended to, there's always going to be blank audio in the back for a long extended period of time. I cannot fix that as of right now. This is the easiest way I can do this for now. If I find another thing, I do apologize. I will probably let everybody know when the timing actually does end. So if you are at the matchup of the week, or just listen for me and say that concludes this week, I will see you guys later. And that's it. Okay, so week number one, games that we have to talk about. Now, I got to be honest, there were two people that I honestly thought I was going to give the game ball to around 4 o'clock on a Sunday, but it ain't over until it's over. First one has to be Alex Matika, everybody's number one favorite team after the draft, edging out Paul Percall 119 to 113. Um, what happened here? Because Saquon Barkley looked unstoppable on Friday in Brazil, and what do you know? Joe Burrow lays an egg, and Paul's team does not show up. The team that looked good on paper, that's pretty much what it was. I think there was a lot of good moves that Paul made, but the skill position players, not named the running backs, which I'll get to in a moment, did not step up, allowing Matika to come back into this one. He is victorious. Now, this one breaks my heart because I really, really, really thought, and this has nothing to do with the opponent, it's the person. Um, as you are all aware of, I do have a tendency to really hate on a team and put them at 12th place, and I really thought that this was a welcome back to the big leagues moment, but unfortunately, they could not get it done either. In a game that was very, very low scoring and not that exciting, to be honest, Krier takes out Big Mesh 91-88. I gotta be honest, I was upset with the Jets, so I didn't watch the whole game. I went to sleep at the third quarter. Figured I'd save myself some sleep while waking up at 6 a.m. every morning. So uh, Krier edged out this one in a game that was an absolute freaking blowout. And if there's a panic button pushed, it's on this team. The Harsh team only put up 57 points. Cup of coffee with the slot receivers leading the way wins 129 to 57. Another game that I had as the game of the week was not the game of the week. Johnny J Fresh wins 102 to 85. Um, the one team that I think was controversial was the Patrick team. This was one of those teams where we talk about you could either be in love with it or not like it. But the Andre Jones team that had the definition of floor running backs for days came out victorious 136-94. And Mr. Jones and the family man, Aaron Jones, I mean, they looked pretty good. Andre's team delivered. The setup that you saw with Jaden Reed and Tyreek Hill looks dangerous, but maybe that setup is going to be pushed on the pause button for a while with the Jordan Love injury. And then I got to be 100% honest. The game ball did go to this person, and that was Alan Williams. Watching that game on Red Zone, and I was only up by like 10, or it was close. And then seeing Stroud connect with Diggs and then the Bears touchdown, I'm thinking to myself, this is beautiful. We're starting out strong. And then Terry McLaurin happened, and that was absolutely horrendous. Jerome Ford did get some garbage time, but Alan Williams came back, and it came up to Jahmyr Gibbs needing only 10 points, and I think he got 15 or something like that. Champ, you came out to play and proved that, like, you're here to stay and be a force to be reckoned with. So those were my week 1 recaps, and now I want to get to some week 1 observations. This is a long segment. I am not going to break this up into little bitty parts. It is very informative. So I'm just going to power through this. There's a few things that I want to talk about with week number 1. First and foremost, okay? This segment is pretty much about, should you worry or should you not? Is it time to panic or is it just week 1? Let's relax. I do think there are some teams that, in my personal opinion, I would push the panic button immediately. And then there's stuff that recent trends have showed that maybe we should pump the brakes. One thing that I constantly say every single year, if you know me, and I had some money invested in it as well, and I hit on Stephon Diggs with this, slot receivers tend to dominate week 1, and running backs tend to dominate week 1. Let's get into what does that exactly mean. Okay, when you have NFL offenses, especially the high-powered offenses or the offenses that are quote-unquote expected to be a hype team offense, they are expected to develop around the season around explosive plays. It's week 1, people are rusty, and what do? They either dump it off to the slot receiver or dump it off to the running back. So chances are, if they're not chances, definitive proof based on some of the roster constructions in our league. If your team was RB heavy, you most likely won your week 1 matchup. Why? Well, your guy going into week 1. Now, I know everybody talks about, it's a committee. Committees take time to develop. They take time to develop. They don't happen right out of the gate in week number 1. So if you started off your draft, and the Cousins is definitely the two people that I'm referring to in this, your running backs are going to get the bulk of the carries in week number 1. There's going to have some other guys sprinkled in. But chances are your highest scoring guys were running backs if you didn't have that elite wide receiver. So they tend to dominate really early, and they tend to dominate very, very early in the season. It's just a matter of injuries and if other guys are going to step up. And slot receivers. I have always said this. I mean, I take back to 3 years ago now, or 2 years ago when Curtis Samuel was bid on Washington because he had an outstanding game in the slot. Greg Dortch had a lot of catches. Freaking Ray McLeod coming out of nowhere. Like, these slot receivers always come out to perform in week 1. I don't know if it'll happen over time and the rest of the season. But if you had a guy that was supposed to be a big play guy and they didn't hit, I would calm down for the most part. There are some guys I absolutely don't fucking like, though. But what I'm trying to tell you is teams haven't developed yet, and quarterbacks are either they're going to take off and run, so scrambling yards for quarterbacks are going to be way up. Running backs, no matter how much they can take, are going to be treated like bell cow guys early out in the gate. That's why you saw Paul's 2 best players be Saquon Barkley and James Conner, just because that's what's going to happen. This always happens, and I know a lot of people don't talk about this, but when you go week 1 DFS, it's more likely that you should go with the running back approach early on. Just throwing that out there in case anybody's interested. The other thing that I wanted to mention on why you guys should kind of calm down, okay? I pulled this stat up from a Twitter tweet from Pro Football Focus, who I know they're catching a lot of heat now. But this was the lowest Week 1 NFL passing touchdown week in the history of the NFL since who knows when. 2019 we had 61, 2020 we had 52, 2021 we had 61, 2022 51, 2023 37, and then last week 33. So there is a decline certainly happening. But the one thing that I want to say is don't panic. But we are seeing that teams that you were invested in are going to have to adjust. Because a lot of offensive line play looked horrible. Now, does that mean that the defense is good or offensive line? That it's probably a mix of both. I know that's the cop-out answer, but that's reasons why the elite tight ends didn't show out week 1. They were probably used more so for blocking. The only elite tight end that was not used for blocking, it was actually out there running 90% of his routes, was on dropbacks, was Trey McBride. So there are other guys too. If you're interested in finding out where the fuck I got that data from, I can kind of give that to you. But what's going to happen is these guys have to block. They really, really have to block when shit's not going out of the gate right then and there. And I also think defensive coordinators are going to come out aggressive. So that was a week 1 observation that I just wanted to give you. Another one is this. Now, this is very, very early, but this is some interesting data that I did point out. And I'm not going to target share. I think target share is very fucking overrated because at the end of the day, I don't care what target share is. It's the volume of passes I care about more. This is interesting. The wide receiver leaders by separation score in week number 1. Now, this is becoming a trend in fantasy football. Now that we're a lot older, we look at advanced statistics, and one of the things that measures what a good wide receiver actually is the separation skills versus, okay, this is versus, the contested catch guys that, they can't separate, but they can make these one-handed grabs over people, and it looks amazing, and it's great to put on Sports Center and whatnot, but obviously, listen, this is only 1 week, but there are some names out here that'll probably surprise the hell out of a lot of you. Okay. Separation score. Okay. Coming in at number 8 is Nico Collins. So Nico Collins finished in the top 8 for separation score, which is pretty good. Number 7, Luke McCaffrey. This is something to keep an eye on because I don't know if anybody watched how the Commanders ran, but Luke McCaffrey might be sneaky. I think he might be discounted Lad McConkey, but Luke McCaffrey is something to keep an eye on. Chances are, by the way, slot receivers will get a high separation score because they have more of the field to work with. So throwing that out there as well. Number 6, CeeDee Lamb, as we expected. Another surprising one here, Jalen Polk. Now, Jalen Polk, and somebody is going to have to step up in this receiver room. I don't know who it is, but Jalen Polk finished 5th. A big one, which was evident on television, was Jameson Williams. Now, what am I saying? Oh, separation score, it's only 1 week. Yes. But this guy was highly touted as a prospect out of Alabama. And the other thing that we have to remember with Jameson Williams is this. Okay, it's 1 week, and the Rams defense looks like it could be cooked immediately, especially at the back end. This one shocks me because this guy always gets criticized for his separation, and that's George Pickens at number 3. Now, he played A.J. Terrell, and he's kind of good. He's not great anymore. Speaking of shockers, Mike Evans. Look, this guy is defining father time, and I saw a tweet by Kyle Brandt, and he had said something like, hey, I'm about to make a big statement, but, there could be a possibility that this guy is just on the Jerry Rice career path that's just being relevant as fuck. And it's one pick that I'm probably already regretting based to age. But, ladies and gentlemen, the number 1 guy with the separation score. Now, this does not surprise me because I love this guy out of college. Yes, it is a rookie and the number 1 guy. Now, I am loving the talent here, but I am not that enthralled based on that other teammates of his were able to get behind the secondary. It's Adonai Mitchell, a.k.a. AD Mitchell, at number 1. He almost got a full yard of separation, which is outstanding. So when you look at these guys in the offenses that they run, you have to keep that into consideration. But I figured some wide receiver data points. There's a lot of guys on here that you probably wouldn't expect to finish in the top 8 of week number 1. Now, how does that relate into the season? We do not know just yet. So figured I'd throw those stats out to you. Now let's go to the waiver wire recap. Observations. As always, man, we have the week 1 waiver wire recap. And I always break down waiver wire stuff because, it's fun to talk about. I cannot, for whatever reason, my desktop doesn't show me all the waivers. So if you bid on some of these guys, there's a few that I know about and some that I do not. Week number 1 is always going to be an aggressive week, guys. I mean, that is stated. I mean, we all know that. We all like to, quote unquote, go and get your guy type of thing and spend a little cash. But looking at what was available this week really didn't excite me. I think a lot of these are speculation ads, and they're more so, it's not this guy's next in the driver's seat, and then you have a bidding war over that guy. The only guy that had the bidding war, Alexander Mattison, went for $75. Yikes. Okay, how do I grade this? Paul, I know you're listening to this already. I absolutely fucking hate Alexander Mattison. I never liked him ever since he was in Minnesota. I was always more pro Mike Boone when he was backing him up when the Dalvin Cook days. And even last year when they had Tyler Chandler, I'm like, dude, you got to get Madison out. Eventually, Minnesota realized this guy's not any good. He goes to Vegas. Normally, Paul, $75 for Alexander Mattison, I'd say it's an F. You just burnt all your money. This is why I'm pushing back on it, though. Paul, I'm going to bump the grade up a little bit, and I'll tell you why. This team might be so freaking boring that they might be game script dependent. And we saw that in week 1 usage with Zamir White versus Alexander Mattison. It almost seems like, now, one thing I didn't count on Alexander Mattison was him being a third down guy and getting the bulk of the catches in the backfield. When you add that onto the equation, now you have me a little bit intrigued, but I'm not totally sold just because I hate the talent. But what do you know? If you think that the Raiders are going to be a bad team, which after week 1, they're probably going to be a bad team, Alexander Mattison might be the buy. If Zamir White can't score early on in the game, he's pretty much useless for fantasy if this continues. So Alexander Mattison could be a low-end RB3. Listen, I don't think the Raiders are going to score a lot of touchdowns. I really, really don't. But if they play from behind constantly and he's out there getting all these crappy dump-offs, he might be a guy that gets you 8 to 10 a week. But would I drop $75 on it? There is absolutely no upside with this offense. Paul, okay, with that logic, I'll give you literally like a D. I can't get excited about Alexander Mattison, but there is some optimism if you need somebody to fill in play or running backs go down and you're a receiver-heavy team. Fine. Here's another guy. This guy has been a blast from the past. He's been a guy who's been hyped up ever since he was a rookie, and everybody got excited about him, and then surprisingly got cut by Tampa Bay, then got cut by the Houston Texans, pre-Stroud, by the way, and just never found a home. And we haven't heard from this guy, and it's Tyler Johnson. Back in Minnesota, he was an interesting prospect. Played with Rashad Bateman, by the way, who I love. And now Puka Nacua is down. I heard some speculation that this dude's season can just be cooked in general. If I own Puka Nacua, I am not happy. I think the minute that you hear optimism, get him out of here. Next man up mentality, I guess, and Tyler Johnson. Now, look at the guy who bid on him. It's Alan Williams. Alan Williams obviously owned Puka Nacua last year. Alan Williams is hoping that lightning strikes twice, right? Tyler Johnson doesn't really excite me that much. And I still love, by the way, Andre's picks for week 1 just look amazing, by the way. But to spend $39 on Tyler Johnson, if you're spending that kind of cash, it means that your receivers suck. And Allen doesn't have the most sustainability out of wide receivers. And I know that Jordan Whittington was just dropped. Tyler Johnson really hasn't put him together on an NFL field. How does he look like with the Rams? To be honest, I just think this is Van Jefferson part 2 with the Los Angeles Rams. I'd probably be more inclined to go trade for Demarcus Robinson since he's owned. I'm very fucking pissed off that Andre has him, by the way. He sniped me on him and Greg Dortch. Uh, it's a speculation ad, but what do we know about the Rams? Matt Stafford likes to sling the fucking ball a shit ton. So, with that being said, I get it. Chase the volume. When we come back, I'll talk more about some other pickups. All right, just to come back on the waiver wire thing. Okay, so I had some hot peppers, sausage and peppers Italian meal. You know what it is. My sinuses are starting to clear up. I feel more energized now. So, Tyler Johnson Allen, my grade would be like a C, the flat C. I can't go C plus. Here's the thing. It's very hard for a veteran who couldn't land on with the Tom Brady team. I get Davis Mills can't make anybody look good. That's not what I'm necessarily saying, but uh, it's hard for me to get behind it. I know McVay has, you know, crafted his master plan in the past, but I really haven't seen much out of Tyler Johnson. Funny thing is, I think isn't Tyler Johnson the one guy in the 2020 NFC Championship game who got held, and that was the intended target? Um, Look, you're chasing volume here, but like it's really hard for me to get behind a guy like Tyler Johnson. But I understand why you did it. Your strategy is a zigzag approach, which I admire a lot. Which is like, listen, everybody wants to spend on running backs. Let me draft a crap ton of running backs and let me spend on receiver. So I get it. It's more of a need play than it is what you actually believe. Funny thing is, the guy you dropped, I like a lot better. I have him stashed in almost every dynasty league. Is Jordan Whittington. I don't know if he'll ever pan out, but I'd rather think that he might be a little bit better. But he is running behind him, so we'll see how this situation looks. And let's be honest, Cooper Kupp is not the cleanest bill of health, but it is going to be interesting to see what this new attack. Where did the targets go? Does that mean more for Kyron? Does Colby Parkinson get more involved? I don't know, but it is interesting. Alec Pierce goes for $15. Now, as far as the price range is concerned, I don't think this is egregious at all. 2 years ago, he had some hype. Last year, when it was between Michael Pittman Jr., Josh Downs, and Alec Pierce, somebody's got to correct me. There was another receiver on this team that had a like minimal amount of buzz, and I can't remember who it was. But I remember I was never in on Alec Pierce at all. However, things are a lot different when Anthony Richardson is throwing the ball. That he out of all the Colts receivers, he's not including Ashton Doolin, obviously. I don't even know if he got bid on, but I don't like him. Like I've never been an Alec Pierce guy. He's too reliant on big play potential, and he really hasn't shown me a lot in his NFL career. I know he's in year 3. I think Downs, I think, might be the PPR guy on this roster, but that's hard to predict with Anthony Richardson. So if you're kind of asking me to put me on the spot, I'm not really enthralled with this. I understand it's 3 catches, this, that, the other. Adonai Mitchell, I do think if they start using him sparingly, and right now they're doing a wide receiver by committee in the slot, unless Downs somehow returns. But there's no volume. It's like, when are you ever going to start Alec Pierce? Because like Pierce and Doolin, like this is literally like Anthony Richardson. If you're on the receiving end, it's going to be a bomb. Anthony Richardson is not a guy that's going to feed guys volume, and it's very, very hard to predict that. $15 for Alec Pierce, man. I gotta go C minus. I like he. It's just very hard for me to say yes. This is the Alec Pierce week, and especially with Downs coming in, and I'm big on AD Mitchell. Like for what Alec Pierce did, AD Mitchell can do that 10 times better. So yeah, I'm not enthralled with this. This is a speculation ad, so it is what it is. Speaking of speculation ads, how do we always end up back to this guy, Jeffrey Wilson, a fan favorite of mine? Wow. So Miami comes in and they draft Jalen Wright, and their roster is Devon Achane hyped up in the 2nd round, Raheem Mostert, who scored the most rushing touchdowns last year, and for some reason Jeff Wilson is still on this roster. Why? Now we know why. Listen, take your victory laps if you want. It's week 1. This backfield cannot stay healthy. All of these guys cannot handle a running back one workload. A-Chain got that. What happened? I hate to use the whole it's Lamar Miller. It's like I always refer back to like Javid Best, and I think that's like pre Reggie Bush, and then they realized we got to split this up somehow. But Mostert even is very frail. As far as build is concerned, Jeff Wilson is the biggest, but he's not even that big. But this guy stays in the system. This guy is literally like, I don't want to say Frank Gore, because Wilson has showed more explosiveness than like late stage Frank Gore, but he's got to be around 30 at this point. And now Jalen Wright might get activated. I just think I think somebody had said it best on a tweet that I saw. It's like, he is the trusted veteran, and he will probably play the Mostert role. Where if A-Chain goes down, then Jalen Wright's going to get those packages, because I do think McDaniel is very creative and he wants them playing in certain packages. But I do think that Jeff Wilson will get the RB goal line duties. Listen, the fact that both running backs are hurt and they might not play, this not only could be a bye week film. Obviously, I'm being biased because I spent on it. The fact that he only went for $9 is astonishing to me. I saw Johnny was the only other guy with $6 on him. But listen, man, these backs cannot stay healthy. I wouldn't be surprised if one of them goes to the pup or they're in and out of the lineup constantly. Look, take a running back on a good offense, spec at it only costs you $9. The grade I would give this to myself is a B minus. Why is it a B minus? Because he's not guaranteed to be the full on guy, but he is in a good offense. They score a lot of points, familiar with the system, and I would bet that he's probably the goal line back over Jalen Wright. I actually do think that regardless if A-Chain is coming back healthy after this, and or if he plays, Wilson is going to be involved some way, somehow, and Miami Mike is going to probably rest either Mostert. Something's going to happen. Like, I really like this pickup for $9. If it was like double digits, yeah, we're getting in scary territory. Allen is back at it again with Ray McLeod for $8. Where did this come from? Again, this goes back to my slot narrative. I think Ray McLeod is playing what Rondell Moore's role should have been in this offense. He comes out of nowhere. Here's the interesting thing why I do like this pickup, though, for Allen's roster construction. He's got return yards. And what do we know about return yards? They're even more valuable this year with the kickoff rule. Shaheed is a cheat code, and this guy is like a floor Rashid Shaheed. I don't think there's a lot of upside here, but this guy literally could have a floor of 8 to 10 every single week because he is getting return yards. And I hate to say it, like Drake London has not shown a lot right now. Allen, actually, between Tyler Johnson and Ray McLeod, I actually think that Ray McLeod actually has a more sustainable floor. I don't know what Tyler Johnson's floor is. Allen, I'm going to give you a solid B on this one. I don't mind it because with your receivers being so thin, if it's Jalen McMillan healthy, if it's Hollywood Brown healthy, if it's Jordan Addison healthy, but if these guys keep getting hurt, this is like your plug and play. Give me my 8 to 10. All right, I don't mind it at all. Jamal Williams, which is a guy that I was shocked that wasn't even drafted. Jamal Williams, Detroit Lions. I love Green Bay Packers. Jamal Williams. I am not a big Saints Jamal Williams guy. I think he got the touchdown because they were blowing them out. But again, Taysom Hill in the goal line packages, like they do some weird crap. But if Kamara was to go down, we saw last year they fed Jamal Williams when what's his name was hurt, Kamara, but he didn't do much of it, and he doesn't get a lot of catches out of the backfield. And I just feel like, I mean, it's kind of obvious, but like the Detroit Lions running line made him a superstar that one year. It's a depth piece. If anything, it is $5. I'll give it a C. It's not an F. It's not a D. I don't see upside for me to go B or A. If Kamara was to go down, I'd probably give this a B, but it's like low end, low grade B because Carr does like to dink and dunk from time to time. Indianapolis defense goes for $4 by me. I obviously cut the Bears defense because their next three games, it's not worth stashing for 3 in a row. Indianapolis does get Malik Willis this week, which is probably one of the worst starting quarterbacks by default, who's starting this week. Obviously not a starter. $4. And they also have the Chicago Bears offense, which kind of could be a little bit nerve-wracking, honestly. Like, not in a good way, like in a bad way. It's a defensive pickup for $4 for 2 weeks. I'll give it a solid C plus because it's based on spec. They were gashed against Joe Mixon on the ground, but they've got a good pass rush, and if they're up in games, like they could create turnovers maybe. Josh Reynolds, $3 waiver. I don't even know why. Like, I love Josh Reynolds. I get it. Somebody must have gotten hurt for David Sutton to do this, but what am I doing here? Like a D? Like I don't want any part of this offense, dude. This is literally running back by committee, wide receiver by committee, tight end by committee. The only thing that's not is a quarterback by committee. I can't get excited about Josh Reynolds with this offense. New England D goes for a waiver on Harsh. Very underrated pickup. They actually might have a good Harsh. I'm going to give you this one a B plus, and the reason why I'm going B plus, I like their matchups coming up, especially this one. Seattle's line sucks, and Christian Gonzalez might lock down DK Metcalf. Philly's defense goes to David Sutton, back and reunited. David Sutton, you got Jacksonville on the back end as well. I think both of these are compared very good by matchup. I think you're still depending on, okay, who do I start between these two? Because the matchups are very enticing. A guy that was on my sleeper list and a lot of people's list is Colby Parkinson. With the departure of Tyler Higbee to the pup, and I don't even think this was a waiver wire pickup actually, but I'll talk about it. I do like this a lot. If you're not buying Demarcus Robinson getting targets and you're not buying Tyler Johnson, Parkinson, listen, there was a year where Tyler Higbee had a substantial floor. Like, Parkinson is a good athlete. I think he could kind of do that. And I don't even know I don't remember who you had as your starting tight end, Alex. Off the top of my head, I don't know for the fact of it. But like Parkinson, look, I'm always team who cares about tight ends. Like, just plug and play if your roster is stacked everywhere else. I don't mind this at all. I'm actually going to give this a B plus because like I would probably think that he gets more involved. The only reason why I don't think he is if he has to block more. But I don't think he's in a committee. I think the wide receiver 2 in St. Louis, Los Angeles might be more of a committee. But he could be a red zone threat, man. We've seen Tyler Higbee have some good games in the past, so why not Parkinson? Paul, I'm going to give you a huge shout out to the Baker Mayfield pickup because until Joe Burrow gets his shit together, I think you're good on this one. Mayfield has 2 great vertical options now with Jalen McMillan at the helm. Cade Otton over the middle and Godwin. Like, dude, like Baker Mayfield, man. Like, is this like just like maybe he's back? Maybe he's back. Some people might say that he was never around, but maybe he's back. Paul, actually, for your roster construction in need, I actually give this an A plus, and I love the matchup this week. All right, we'll get into the nitty gritty in a sec. First matchup that is on the books this week is a matchup that is very, very projected to be low scoring. I don't know what to think. I think there's some injuries involved, absolutely, and then it's just going to be hard to construct some positive vibes. Patrick versus Harsh, vintage one. I want to say some prayers because I love you, but that opening day roster, hard to feel good about it. And then we'll go to Mr. Patrick because Jordan Love actually looked very, very good later on. And then Mr. Patrick, what did I tell you about the Jets? I love them, but I can't stand them. Here we go. Patrick versus Harsh. Aaron Rodgers versus Trevor Lawrence. Dude, I'm going to have to go Rodgers. Lawrence to me, just I can't quite get behind yet. Deebo Samuel and Garrett Wilson versus Malik Neighbors and Drake London. Okay. Well, here's what we know. Ayuk looked very, very rusty. McCaffrey is hurt. Mason will get the touch, bulk of it, but Deebo's going to be involved. Patrick, now I like Deebo Samuel. If there is one guy that I think people should be buying right now on Patrick's team, it's Deebo Samuel. Jordan Mason is awesome, but I don't like the competition behind him, and they're going to have to create some more plays with Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel is probably going to have a great game. Garrett Wilson against the Tennessee Titans is projected for 13 points. The Titans, I don't know if Caleb Williams looked bad or the Titans D looked good, but we have to remember, Titans front do have a great front, and they paid L'Jarius Sneed. How will Garrett Wilson respond against L'Jarius Sneed? Good news is he got Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball. Good news is, too, that I think that our defense can put them in bad spots. And Aaron Rodgers looked old. I hate to admit it, dude. He looked like he could not run if his life depended on it, dude. Oh, my God. Well, what do I say to that? Jets, Jets. We'll go to the harsh side before I pick a victory here. Malik Neighbors and Drake London. Well, Wan'Dale Robinson, again, my slot theory, if you listen to my week 1 takeaway, Wan'Dale was heavily involved. But if Daniel Jones can actually look competent and the line can hold up against Washington, which Tampa Bay's line was able to hold up, Tampa Bay has a much better line, obviously, than New York. Neighbors should get his first touchdown. This is if Neighbors can't get a touchdown against the Washington Commanders defense, what the fuck? Okay, because like this is the most exploitable secondary in the entire league. They are awful. They are so bad that every single starting Bucks receiver scored a touchdown. Let that I almost said fucking sink in because Baker Mayfield had 4 touchdowns. I know Daniel Jones sucks, but Daniel Jones actually has a really good receiver. You know what's gonna happen? It's gonna be Darius Slayton randomly going deep. Oh my god, that would piss me off. And the guy that should have never been taken in the second round that I think the panic button should be pushed on is Drake London. Now, I'll pump the brakes on the bust meter. My worry meter with Drake London has to be at least at a 4 at this point because, again, we have not seen this guy put together consistent games, and thinking Kirk Cousins could unlock him, I don't know. If you want to say, well, he went against Joey Porter Jr., who played him a lot, fine. And Dante Jackson is a great cornerback, too, by the way. Pittsburgh's defense, actually, by the way, was very, very slept on. I know it's week 1, but they looked very good. And Mike Tomlin might find his way in the playoffs yet again. I hope not, but you never know. Talk about Drake London now going against Philadelphia. Drake London's not a guy who separates. He never really was. He has some good moves off the line, but that's about it. They're going to be playing from behind because I do think that the Eagles absolutely destroy the Atlanta Falcons. If Drake London can't get it done here, man, this is literally 5th, 6th round Drake London yet again. Who am I more confident in? I got to go with the Patrick side of things here. Running backs is gross, except for David Montgomery. Najee Harris is going to be the quote-unquote bell cow, and then everybody else is going to be Arthur Smith to death. It's going to be a mix of pretty much everybody. And then on the flip side, we got Jamal Williams and Zach Charbonnet. Well, Audric Estime is out, which means that either Jaleel McLaughlin or Javonte Williams will get more carries. But listen, it's against the Pittsburgh front that looked absolutely good against a very good Atlanta line. I don't want anything to do with this at all. Charbonnet to me is like in that Jerome Ford tier where it's like if Kenneth Walker's out, he'll get starts, but he'll only look good. He'll do the minimal amount of work with volume, like he was for me last year, and I've seen enough out of him. Charbonnet is a talented running back, but with Seattle's offensive line, I see maybe like 60 to 80 total yards tops, sprinkle in a few catches, but probably no touchdown. The guy who I do think will score a touchdown is Montgomery. Najee Harris, if he gets going, because Jalen Warren, I did not like this year after that injury, and Cordell Patterson, Arthur Smith's got a hard on for. I go Patrick here. Freiermuth versus Brock Bowers. I'll go Brock Bowers. I do not like any passing attack on Pittsburgh this year. Arthur Smith PTSD is a real thing. There's way too much Arthur Smith talk in this matchup. Holy crap. I'm pretty sure we're at 6 minutes or something right now, and that man's name has come out of my mouth at least, no homo, like 6 times. Michael Pittman Jr. and Rico Dowdle getting the start. Tank Dell and Jamar Chase. All right, Harsh, is this what you wanted? You put Jamar Chase in the flex to get your advantage? Because you do. Michael Pittman Jr., I don't like with Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson cannot feed volume with a guy. Anthony Richardson will literally drop back, take off, or drop back and hope that somebody gets a deep bomb. That's all he does. Those are the only things that he can do well. Great fantasy quarterback for himself, not for everybody else in the offense. Tank Dell, listen. Let me talk about the Houston Texans receiving options for a sec. Let me take a sip of coffee because this is going to get some hot takes. First and foremost, Harsh, you're winning the flex matchup, but I want to break it down for you because I know you're probably thinking to yourself, listen, you got to give me some hope. What I think is going to happen here is what I thought was going to happen when I took the other 2 Texan receivers, but I still think Tank Dell will have his games, okay? but Dell becomes the more boomer bust option. When I saw the Texans play week 2 of the preseason, and when I saw Stephon Diggs line up in the slot against the Pittsburgh Steelers, I said to myself, thank you. Because now this is going to be easy for me to project, not what the analysts think. Stephon Diggs last year, I had said it when I had him. He can't separate on the outside anymore. He's lost a bit. But you give him all the space in the world in the slot, and this guy will eat. Larry Fitzgerald correlation. Here it is. This is a guy who's going to extend his career because he's going to play in the slot. He can still get off the line when he's got space, because now he can go left, he can go right, he can go right at you. And he can make people miss. But he is going to be throwing the ball underneath 10 yards exclusively. I would think that everything is either going to be a drag, a dig, a zigzag route, like an option route over the slot for Stroud, and maybe his big plays will come off of a wheel route and man coverage. Tank Dell is the boomer bust guy here in this offense. I do think that Nico is still the big play guy, but Tank Dell is going to be impossible to figure out because one thing that we know with offenses is it's easy to project two wide receivers when one of them is the permanent slot guy and the outside guy, aka the Rams. When it's Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, both of them can eat. Why? Because their roles are significantly different. It's hard to predict though with the Texans because you had three guys and we didn't know who was going to do what. Tank Dell last year played exclusively, well, not exclusively, but a lot of the times he lined up in the slot, he lined up outside, but they used him as a moving chess piece because everybody else was hurt when Nico went down and whatnot, and they had to use him because he was the best option. But now I think they want to use him sparingly, and that's why I love the talent. And he'll have his games. I think he got 7 targets. So I do think that what we saw happen is that two of these wide receivers will hit double digits every week, and one will be single digits. I think that's the way it's going to be. Chicago Bears is an interesting one because their defense is good. I mean, I did see a lot of potential last year out of them. Their next 3 weeks though are brutal, so they're not worth keeping on a roster. Jalen Johnson is for real. Jalen Johnson has locked down a lot of good wide receivers. My bet, and as a Nico owner, I don't like it, is that Nico, if they play exclusively in man coverage, is probably going to have a tough time. Who does that leave the door open for? I think this is a Tank Dell week for you, buddy. I really do. And Jamar Chase against Kansas City. No L'Jarius Sneed, so he can't make him his bitch anymore, so he should be okay. New England D against Seattle at home. I like it. All defenses going head to head. You know what? Hot take. I'll go New England. Seattle's D on paper looks good, but they're traveling. That's the only thing I have to bank from it. Keys to victory, harsh. Malik Neighbors is number 1, and Drake London. Because you drafted these guys knowing you were punting running back, and if they can't hit these weeks, it's not going to be enough. Because I do think that you're going to get outgained badly in the running back department. Where I think you got some hope, though, because I do think Neighbors in London are very close to Samuel and Wilson, because I do think Tank Dell and Jamar Chase is miles above Pittman and Dowdle. So if they can at least keep par with Debo and Garrett Wilson, I actually think you got a shot. And the other thing is, when you stack teams, it's feast or famine. If they don't get their shit together, it looks bad. So if Rodgers lays a dud, I think you're sitting pretty. I know Patrick's the favorite in this matchup. And that's probably why I got to take him. I'm sorry, Harsh. I can't get behind Javonte in that matchup and Zach Charbonnet. Charbonnet, though, in a workload, could at least cancel out one of his running backs. But if Neighbors in London can't get it together, buddy, I think Patrick could really, really have himself a good game. This next matchup is an interesting one because the man who had dropped 131 goes against a team that did not break 100. When you look at the projections, they are making a wish with the Make-A-Wish kid, Rob Messia is projected 112 over Allen Williams is 100 points. The 61% favorite going into this matchup. Yo, what is going on here? Let's break it down. Now, the recaps, Mesh, your team looked a little rusty. The biggest surprise was Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't know what happened there. If Amon-Ra St. Brown was Amon-Ra St. Brown, Mesh, you'd be 1-0. And I honestly, Mesh, I had a whole script planned out for you to get that game ball, buddy. I'm really, really sorry that it didn't happen. Because when I woke up and I saw 3 points, I said, what the fuck? Then I look at the Allen Williams team. And when the running backs got the volume and Anthony Richardson got 30, remember what I said in my take, Allen? That was your upside game. But we are now going with Tyler Johnson and Jalen McMillan to carry the load here. They are projected very, very low. Kenneth Walker is hurt. Mesh, can you take advantage? Lamar versus Vegas, Richardson at Green Bay. I'm going a wash here. If Anthony Richardson is healthy, his floor is literally like 22 points. Lamar's floor is like that too. Now, if Lamar's line is not good, heck, he's going to run all over the field. Both quarterbacks will combine for over 200 rushing yards. Yes, you heard it here correctly. Not that that's a big statement. By the way, Mesh, I went to Wawa today, and the turkey sub with the hot peppers really hit the spot today, buddy. Anyway, I'm going a wash here. No clear advantage here. Richardson against Green Bay, I also think that there's more worry that Jonathan Taylor could be involved. Allen, the counter argument, well, what about Derrick Henry? I think the motherfucker is cooked. And wow, I almost said the wrong name. Amon-Ra St. Brown and Brandon Ayuk taking on Jalen McMillan and Tyler Johnson. Well, this is all speculation going on for Allen. Amon-Ra St. Brown against Tampa Bay will bounce back with a vengeance. Brandon Ayuk against Minnesota. Listen, bud. Sorry, got a cold. So that sneeze happened at a really opportune time. Holy fuck. Amon-Ra St. Brown and then Brandon Ayuk. St. Brown will be fine. Ayuk has to dust off the dusty performance that he had on Monday night. Oh my God. 3 points for one of the highest paid receivers in the league. He's not worth that. I don't care what anybody says. I am actually agreeing with Harsh. He's good. He's not that good, though. And I know the Niners are pissed off at him. Like, they're generally pissed off. Anyway, I'm getting off track. Topic. Tyler Johnson, look, it's a speculation guy. Will he get over 10 points this week? Would it surprise me? No. Will it happen? No. I'll go 7 to 8 points. But Jalen McMillan will go over his 6. In fact, I will probably throw on a Jalen McMillan touchdown prop bet because what he does best is what the Detroit Lions cannot defend. Jalen McMillan is so good that the Trey Palmer hype from last year is completely dead. This guy is really, really good, and I hate to say it, I think Allen struck gold with this one yet again. Allen really needs another wide receiver, though, because things aren't looking too pretty right now. So Jalen McMillan was a great pick by Mr. Williams, and Baker throws a great deep ball. Give me Jalen. No. I'm going Amon-Ra St. Brown and Ayuk. Even though, so I think McMillan will get you 15, 16, whatever, but Mesh's receivers will bounce back. By the way, Adam Schefter just reports Kenneth Walker did not practice today. Oh my God, I need to blow my nose. Boys, here we go. I'm just going to try to speed through this. I'm sorry, Alan. I know you like in-depth takes. Josh Jacobs. Twitter was victory lapping how cooked he was in the first half, and then he looked good in the second half. Listen up. I hate these idiots on Twitter that don't watch football. Just because the guy has no room to run does not mean he's cooked. It means that the offensive line got penetrated really bad by the defensive front. And then he looked like Josh Jacobs in the second half. He's fine, Mesh. I don't care what anybody says to you, Mr. Rob Messia. He is not cooked. In fact, you can give him to me if you want. But Malik Willis is in, and that I don't like. Tony Pollard. Mesh, I said it. You took the best Titans back. Congratulations. And if our run defense looks as bad as it was against San Francisco because we lost Jonathan Franklin Myers, he can find himself in the end zone again. Kenneth Walker, if he plays, is in a decent matchup, but I don't think he's going to play. Jahmyr Gibbs against Tampa Bay is a nice matchup. I do think that they're going to have to rely on him more than Montgomery just because of Tampa Bay and their interior front with Vita Vea It's hard to stop. Okay, who am I picking in this matchup? I am banking on Walker not playing, so I'm going to go with Mesh. Jacobs will have a gross game. By the way, Jacobs might be fed 25 times and he'll get like 70 yards. No touchdown. I can't imagine Malik Willis being able to command this team into a victory. It's very, very hard for me to see that because Malik Willis is ass. Goddard versus Kincaid. I'll go Kincaid. Not heavily involved in week 1. Week 2 is around the corner. Get him involved, please. Brian Thomas Jr., Deontay Johnson, Rashad White, Travis Etienne. These are 2 guys who I'd be very nervous about, Allen. They can catch passes, but I think goal line duties are about to be taken away from both of them. More so Etienne than White. Bucky Irving, I think, is a fan favorite in Tampa, but Bucky Irving's a better runner than Rashad White. I think Rashad White should just catch passes. Brian Thomas Jr. against Cleveland. Why not, Mesh? Deontay Johnson, listen, Mesh, I am not starting any Carolina Panthers, bro. Like, you can go with Deontay Johnson. I don't like it. I go with the floor here on Allen. I can't get excited about these flexes, and then it's a cancel-out matchup on the defense. Well, by that logic, how is this score going to add up? My belief, if Kenneth Walker cannot go, I don't know what Allen does. My guess is Jalen Wright if the other guys are ruled out, because that's how Allen's risk adverse. You don't give a fuck. Sorry, my nose is bugging the fuck out. All right. There's a lot to talk about here because I think the clearest advantage here, I think, is Richardson over. Oh no! Wow, I thought Mesh had Aaron Rodgers. Never mind. Wow. You know what? You know what? Jets D against Will Levis, though. We have to talk about that. Fuck. I'm trying to pump up Raw Messia here. But if Walker does not suit up, and I think it becomes a floor play versus Mesh's like coin flip, damn it. Thing is, I don't like it when Allen gets off the hook, and I think he could get off the hook against this Mesh team. It's the Mesh. The running backs are in bad matchups, buddy. Josh Jacobs. You know what? No, fuck that. Mesh, you're winning this week. I don't care. We are back, moving along right over here. J Fresh All Stars versus LSU boys. Johnny saying a prayer, somehow didn't even need Christian McCaffrey, still got the victory. That is one of the best feelings in the world in fantasy football. And then we got Mr. Paulper, called the LSU boys captain, the creator, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Big Paul. Where Josh Allen versus Joe Burrow. Give me Josh Allen. I can't trust Joe Burrow right now. The rust is still there right now. The rust is still there. Now, Paul, if you listened to my segments earlier, you know what to do. You know what to do. Mike Evans, actually, yeah, you definitely know what to do. Mike Evans at Detroit, love it. Amari Cooper at Jacksonville, I do like it, but what's going on at the quarterback spot? Justin Jefferson and Zay Flowers. Well, okay. Let me talk about it. Mike Evans against Detroit, like a lot. Will he score? Yes. Amari Cooper is a coin flip. Does Deshaun Watson get it figured out? He looked so fucking bad. I don't know. I don't know, man. I can't feel confident about that. Justin Jefferson will have you a game, though, Paul. Big game for JJ here. Zay Flowers, I think the issue with them not being able to protect Lamar this year is that he's just going to be an underneath guy, and those guys aren't really that exciting for fantasy. They get volume, but it's like his floor is 8 to 10, and if he hits a touchdown, it's like 15, 16. I think even in a good matchup, I don't like it that much. So, Nick, pick a winner. Draw. I don't see a clear-cut advantage here. I love Jefferson this week. I love Evans this week. Cooper and Flowers, I'm not too sold on, but Flowers has the better matchup. What? Ladies and gentlemen, we have a Bucky Irving sighting. I repeat, We have a Bucky Irving sighting because Christian McCaffrey might not play again. Okay. Paul, you get the advantage here. Barkley and Connor will outscore Mixon and Irving. Mixon, dude, talk about guys that people thought were cooked. That guy is not cooked. Wow. Joe Mixon, way to ball out. Saquon Barkley, way to ball out. You're not cooked either. James Conner, way to ball out. You're not cooked either. But I got to say, Paul, last week, I loved Barkley and I loved Connor in those matchups. And they're still in fantastic matchups. Barkley will outperform that 15. Connor will outperform that 13. Give me 22 for Barkley and 15 for Connor. Joe Mixon against the Bears. The Bears did give up some big runs, not big runs, but decent runs to Tony Pollard. Mixon, I think, will hit his thing at 15. Bucky Irving, though, against Detroit. This all came in when the game was out of hand. I think they're just giving him revved up in case they do need him long term. I don't know what to think about with Bucky Irving, but the clear advantage goes to Barkley and Connor in this one. Calvin Ridley, Rashid Shaheed, DJ Moore, Christian Kirk. Okay. Oh, wait, we skipped tight end. Evan Ingram against Cleveland or Travis Kelce against Cincinnati. Travis Kelce looks old. Evan Ingram does not, but I don't know what is going on in Jacksonville with the passing attack. It's very hard to figure out. Who is more likely to score the touchdown? I don't care how old he is. Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift is in the building. I'll go with that stupid ass narrative for Paul. Calvin Ridley and Rashid Shaheed versus DJ Moore and Christian Kirk. All right, Johnny. I don't like Calvin Ridley in this matchup at all. This is now two really good corners he's had to go against. I'm not in on Ridley against the Jets. Rashid Shaheed, you are already saying this is my guy. I'm playing him. He is a cheat code. All right, fine. If Shaheed don't get a touchdown, it's 8 points. But if he does, you're getting 17. Paul, let's go to DJ Moore and Christian Kirk. Good news for DJ Moore. Rome Odunze is out. Targets go back to DJ Moore. Good news also is Keenan Allen is not practicing this week. They go against the Houston Texans. Caleb Williams, I think, is going to have a long night in Houston. This place is going to be rocking. I love Houston's defense in this matchup, but somebody's got to catch the ball, and I think it's going to be DJ Moore. Christian Kirk. Somebody had... All right. Paul, look this up on your Twitter. Because I don't know if you believe in players being motivated to dominate. Somebody posted a video of Christian Kirk getting interviewed by an interviewer after the Miami game. And it's just like him just kind of like explaining his thoughts about the game. It wasn't really anything that big about, what should you have done better type of shit, or what could you have done better, da-da-da-da-da. And some fan actually reposted that on Twitter, basically had said, well, we would probably win if they went younger and put Parker Washington at the slot. Christian Kirk found that, reposted to the guy who said that, and said, keep that same energy. So if you need some Twitter motivation there you have it. Kirk, though, was supposed to be... This is where I pump the brakes, by the way. If a guy who's supposed to play the slot does not do well week one, I don't know. That concerns me a little bit. But the one thing I am not concerned with is DJ Moore's targets. So I'm going DJ Moore. Cleveland at Jacksonville. Okay, I like it. Pittsburgh at Denver, though. I love that, Paul. Dude, Bo Nix is going to be on his ass the whole game. TJ Watt might have 8 sacks. I'm not even like joking. If McCaffrey can't go, Paul, I do think that you will convincingly win this one. McCaffrey not being there and Johnny having very bad matchups. Paul, can you hear me? Paul, can you hear me? Paul, the only guy I don't like on your team is I'm not gonna say it because Johnny will get pissed. No, Kirk is the only one I'm not. Look, Paul, you got to admit Travis Kelce has you a little bit nervous. I know you guys are married and attached to the hip, and you give him a hand job whenever he wants it, and this, that, and the other. But you gotta, can't teach an old dog new tricks. I get. I don't know. Kirk is the only one I'm worried about. But as far as volume is concerned, who's not getting it on this Paul team? I think I'm following the volume here. the matchups on the Johnny side are just awful. Like really, really bad point blank. Johnny, count your blessing, buddy, that you won week 1 because I do think that like this is going to be a tough one for you. Paul, I listen, if I jinx this, I apologize because I think one year I thought you were gonna beat me, and this always happens when I'm like so in on you or somebody else is. But my brother, I don't see that much cause for concern. I really like this team this week. All right, we're gonna now focus in on the next matchup, which really isn't much to talk about other than the fact that last week's matchup of the week did not live up to expectations at all. Laid a dud. Granted, it's week 1, anything can happen. Yada yada yada. We know the drill by now, guys. And another team just kind of didn't need to really even suit up. Cup of Coffee versus David Sutton's team. These teams are very, very different as far as roster construction is concerned. There's a lot of interesting things that have happened with both of these teams, including a elevated starter on one team and then demotions on another. So it's going to be interesting because I do think that one of these teams could be in a world of pain. You'll be surprised at which one I'm talking about. And then I also do think that I don't know if we've seen the fullest. Something it seems fishy about one of these teams. I'll get to it. Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts. Murray against the Rams has historically had some decent games. I know he loses to them all the time. Jalen Hurts at home against Atlanta. This is a slam dunk. Jalen Hurts, I think, will. I don't know. I can't say that. No, I can. Jalen Hurts, I think, will give you a clear advantage by 10 points. Oh, okay. This is where it gets interesting. DK Metcalf and Marvin Harrison Jr. versus Jackson Smith and Jigba and Cooper Kupp. Well, Captain, what do we do? Here I am. David, I hate to say it, but you are going to get pissed at DK Metcalf again because he's going to get blanketed and shut down by new shutdown corner Christian Gonzalez. If Christian Gonzalez didn't get hurt last year, dude, this guy was on a tear. He looks like the real deal. Commander fans, Allen included, this guy got taken after Emmanuel Forbes. I repeat, after Emmanuel Forbes. What the fuck are we doing? Metcalf ain't gonna do shit in this game, dude. If he does, holy crap, I'd be shocked. Now, logically, what we talked about last week, and this is why my week 1 breakdowns get into it, you would then assume basic fantasy nerd novice knowledge, if you will. Okay, well, let me take the secondary guy, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and the guy didn't show out against Denver with Surtain. It was the Tyler Lockett show again. Here's the thing. The good news for JSN, which, dude, every JSN truther, they feel so optimistic. They're like, oh, yeah, but he was running more deep routes, and he was playing exclusively in 2 wide receiver sets. Yeah, I get that. But all that doesn't mean shit if the offensive line can't block. Because you know what's going to happen? Lockett, and I think Coffey said this, Lockett's role flip with JSN's. But if Geno has no time, Lockett is going to literally get 7 for 70 every week, and he's going to be like an 8 to 10 week point type of guy. And New England's D might actually be kind of nasty in a way. I don't know what to expect. They held Jamar Chase in check, but like Joe Burrow always looks rusty. Look, JSN don't get it done here, bro. Pump the brakes on the hype train. Okay, so now I don't like both of those guys. So it's then Cooper Kupp versus Marvin Harrison Jr. Coffee, you can take the slam dunk. Marvin Harrison Jr. There's a lot of people out there that think he's a bust. I'm not. I am not one of those. I took him first overall in Dynasty. Again, what did I talk about? When timing is not right, slot receivers and dump offs to the running backs. So Greg Dortch, James Conner, Trey Benson, Amari DiMercato really got a lot of work here. How do they respond against the Rams front? I think they'll be okay. I know Jared versus Bierce or whatever from Florida State is pretty nasty, but whatever. Give me Kupp though. No Puka Nacua. They're gonna feed him until he gets hurt. Alvin Kamara and promoted to the starting roster, number 27, J.K. Dobbins, a David favorite. David, I think if there was one thing you liked about week one, it was the resurgence of J.K. Dobbins. Because I know for a fact you did not feel good about that fucking team last week. But if there was one thing to feel proud about, J.K. Dobbins was it. But let's talk about a guy that everybody's been hating on, myself included, Alvin Kamara. Whatever the Saints did week one, I am ripping it up, I am throwing it in the trash, and I am going to make believe like that shit never even fucking happened. Okay, Nick, why would you do something like that? Because they blew out the fucking Panthers, dude. Like, yeah. Dude, it took him how many times? Like, I don't expect that workload week in and week out for the Saints to be up all the time. This is a game they're going to be behind. So, what does this mean? Alvin Kamara, 10 catches, 25 yards. Alvin Kamara, 9 carries, 35 yards. No touchdowns. So, what the hell does that even come out to be? It's double digits, but that's probably going to be a stat line here. J.K. Dobbins gets another mouth-watering matchup against the Carolina Panthers. Listen, we never doubted the talent. It was the injury. I hate to be the negative Nancy here, and this is what I'm going to say because he looked like it last year or 2 years ago too when he was coming off of an injury. When you watch J.K. Dobbins run, it almost seems like his leg is just not right. Just watch his runs. It almost looks like it's still not fully healed or that he has no burst left. Like, he looks good once he gets past the first level, but breakaway speed, like, something doesn't look right with his running style. But guess what? J.K. Dobbins on one leg will run all over this defense. And if Devon Achane can't go, Breece Hall has a very tough matchup against the Tennessee Titans. David, I'm actually taking you in here. I am under the impression that Achane ain't going to play. And I do think that Jeff Wilson is probably going to have a really funny game that everybody looks at and they start to laugh and they say, what the fuck, Jeff Wilson? Yeah, that Jeff Wilson. Okay, Mark Andrews versus Kyle Pitts. Okay, so both guys I didn't like this year a lot. Just Kyle Pitts, I like the talent, or did, but like, what are we doing here, buddy? Mark Andrews looked absolutely cooked. I know there's somebody out there on Twitter that was saying, hey guys, don't feel bad. I got some positive news here. Dude, after that Isaiah Likely performance, Mark Andrews has been promoted to left tackle, bro. This is the Vegas Raiders, though. If he can't get it done, dude, he's not healthy, dude. He just looked really, really bad. But am I really gonna take Kyle? Yeah, I think I have to take Kyle Pitts here. I don't know if I'm buying Likely long term, but he looked a lot healthier than Mark Andrews. But again, Lamar Jackson lost 2 of his best linemen last year, and he's running for his life. Lamar might be a great fantasy quarterback yet again, and Andrews might have to be used to block, meaning Likely might be the guy going out for routes this time. That is a likely scenario. Thank you. I'm taking Kyle Pitts only because I think that the Eagles, whatever the alternate line is in that game, by the way, David, I don't even know what it opened up at, but like if it's anything that's less than 5.5 Eagles, what? Like I would probably put. I'm not even kidding. I would put Eagles alternate line -10. Like dude, I think they're 1,000 after what I saw last week. Yeah, dude, I think the Eagles steamroll the fuck out of the Falcons, and with that, I think that Kyle Pitts will get some garbage time love. AJ Brown and T Higgins versus Rashee Rice and Jaleel McLaughlin. Okay. T. Higgins probably won't play, and Jaleel McLaughlin will probably get Coffey 7 points. So A.J. Brown or Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice will be heavily involved underneath yet again. Rashee Rice will probably finish top 5 in catches this year if he doesn't get suspended. So I love him, but you know me. You know me, David. As much as I love Rashee Rice, you know who I love more? A.J. Brown. And that motherfucker is going to get 2 touchdowns. You heard it here first. Going to DraftKings right now. A.J. Brown, 2 touchdowns. Yeah, he's going to cook. Philly D versus Lost. What defense is? Oh, Chargers D. Oof. David, I actually like Philly D a lot this week, though. But Chargers D? Chargers D? Here's the interesting thing. Chargers D with Harbaugh at the helm against Bryce freaking Young. As good as Philly's going to be, I think LA's D is going to be better. The interesting thing to talk about here is what does this team look like if Higgins can't go, and what does Coffey's team look like if A-Chain can't go? Well, looking at the benches, Coffey, you already know damn well who I would play in a heartbeat. Sutton, what do you do? My guess is you don't have anybody Thursday night, do you? No. Okay. Well, what do you do, Sutton? Sutton, what do you? I don't know who the hell you go with. Coffey, you know damn well who I'm going with. You don't want that though. So David, you might luck out here if the man doesn't use his brain. But David, these are all David guys, and I don't like any of these guys. You're gonna have to probably. Oh my god, dude. I don't know, guys. I'm not gonna say shit. But this is where things get interesting because Coffey is heavily favored, and I think it has to do with the two running backs and the two elite receivers, or the perceived elite receivers. Where I think David gets an advantage if A-Chain can't go, this Coffey team might not be favored anymore. No, he will, but not by a lot. Coffey, if you want to win this week, Cooper Kupp's got to be Cooper Kupp, and you need somebody to pick up A-Chain slack. Because I think Kupp and Rice will be great. Brees, I think they'll still get a good floor game. But where do we stand on everybody else on this roster? Because they are coin flip, coin flip, coin flip. Sutton, I'm going to be honest with you. I think your running backs will have service. I think you win the running back matchup because I think A-Chain doesn't play. Let me get that straight. And I think A.J. Brown and Rashee Rice will be interesting. But then everything else, dude, between everybody's rosters is just so weird. Like, I almost think like they're like, it's like if Sutton's like, and I don't think Higgins plays, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned it. Yeah, he ain't playing. So if I'm factoring in Coffey, I'll make this fair for you. If I'm factoring in A-Chain, who hasn't been ruled out yet, I'm going to do the same thing for T. Higgins. And then when it comes down to it, like I might have to go Coffey. I don't think DK Metcalf does shit. Marvin Harrison Jr., we haven't seen it yet. Even though Kamara and Dobbins will have their games. No, because then I'm contradicting myself here. Sorry, Coffey. I think if Dobbins does what he did last week, and if A.J. Brown and the Philly defense carries you to victory, this is tough. Dude, it's like the top of David's lineup I hate at the receiver. Well, not Harrison, but I don't know what they're going to do with him against the Rams. That should be a fun game, though, by the way. Fantasy-wise. Dude, I am forced to make a decision here. I will go with the Monday night factor going into no, but you got Jalen Hurt. Oh my god, dude. This is a tough game, dude. I'm pondering the fuck out of it. All right. I gotta go one position by one position. Jalen Hurts outscores Murray. Tyler Lockett outscores both of Seattle guys, so let's call that a wash. Kupp outscores Marvin Harrison, so advantage 2 to Coffey. Let's say Jaleel McLaughlin gets moved up to A-Chain, so Kamara beats him, so that's 2 for Coffey, 1 for Sutton. Dobbins or Breece Hall. It's the Carolina Panthers versus the Tennessee Titans. I got to go wash because the matchup's good for Dobbins, but I can't say Dobbins over Breece Hall. So it's now 2-1 in favor of Coffey. Tight end spot, wash. No way in hell. I'm going to go Brown, though, over Rice. Brown has more touchdown upside. I like my touchdowns more than I like my floor. And then the defense, that's the deciding factor. Chargers D over Phillies D. Philly's D, I think, makes it really close and good for David Sutton, but I do think they give up a garbage time. Kyle Pitt, listen to that narrative. They give up a garbage time Kyle Pitts touchdown, which ices the game for Coffey. Look at that. Okay, I am surprised this matchup is coming in very, very quickly this year. It's happening week 2, but the podcast killer versus the man who makes the podcast. The projections are astronomically way too high, by the way. This is the highest total on the board. The other thing that we will talk about with this matchup is that I can't put it as matchup of the week because you won a game, but I did not. Had the record been reversed, I would say this is a good game, but I don't want to toot my own horn, as you know. I'm just kidding. Podcast killer versus the Texas Rattlesnake. This should be a good one. There's a lot of interesting pieces on both sides of the ball. CJ Stroud and Patrick Mahomes. Both are playing at home. Both should have really, really good seasons. But when it comes down to it, as much as I like CJ Stroud does play a more difficult defense than Patrick Mahomes. So I give a slight lean to you, Krier. But I do think that Houston's defense will have a great game this week. Chris Olave and Xavier Worthy versus Devontae Adams and Devonta Smith. Krier, this is my thought process. You're not going to bench Patrick Mahomes. So I am going to have to make a chess piece counter and have Worthy on the other side. Chances are if they do connect like they did, I'm hoping to get a part of your points. So that's kind of why I'm playing him. McLaurin, I don't want to play until further notice, until his targets go up and this offense somehow gets figured out anyway. But the fact that you have Mahomes on the other side, I will counteract with Xavier Worthy. Chris Olave, okay. I'm not concerned because they laid a shellacking, but they're going to have to throw against Dallas in this one. I do think that there's going to be a lot of dink and dunk opportunities for Chris Olave in this one. I do think that he might hit his floor at 8. Will he score though? Probably not. So you might look at an 8 to 10 point outburst. Will Xavier Worthy score? He's always a threat to do that. But you have the guys that are more defined in Devonta Adams and Devonta Smith. Adams is in a really bad matchup. Smith is in a really good matchup. Devonta Smith plays on Monday night. You gotta like that. So because of that, I think which guy do I think has the biggest outcome out of all these? I think it's Devonta Smith. And I do think that Olave and Adams might be floor plays, and then I could see Worthy and Smith canceling each other out with touchdowns. But if Hollywood Brown cannot go yet again, I'll go a wash here. I do think that the targets will be similar and the production will be too. Speaking of really good matchups and even keeled shit, Jerome Ford and Bijan Robinson versus Jonathan Taylor and James Cook. The projections are almost identical here. You've got RB2s that get a workload between Ford and Cook, and then you got solidified RB1s. The best matchup by far is Jonathan Taylor against the Green Bay Packers, and with Malik Willis playing quarterback, Jonathan Taylor is probably going to scare me. Last week, I said the guy who scared the shit out of me in a good matchup was Kenneth Walker. I was right. The guy who scares me this week, who I don't like that much long term for top 5 value. I mean, he'll still be okay. Jonathan Taylor against the Green Bay Packers. This is going to be one that I don't want to. I don't want to see what happens. I really don't want to see what happens. Jerome Ford and James Cook, I think, will be very, very similar. They're both in decent matchups. I don't think they both have the best touchdown upside, but the volume will be there. Bijan against Philly. Bijan might just have a floor game yet again. This is not the greatest matchup, but you saw in the second half, Josh Jacobs was able to find some room against that Philly D, and I think he'll be okay for a floor play. But I think I get outscored because I think Taylor might have a better game than Bijan. Krier, I'll give you that one. Trey McBride or George Kittle? Well, this is a wash because I think that George Kittle might need to be used a little bit more than expected. Okay, Texans stack versus Ezekiel Elliott and Keenan Allen. You know how I feel about this bench. You know how I feel about that bench. Zeke, could he fall into the end zone? Fine, but he's not doing anything else other than that. Keenan Allen got a lot of targets. That's promising. I do think that Diggs will probably yet again outperform Nico Collins from a fantasy standpoint. Nico goes against a tough corner in Jalen Johnson. By the way, I'm going full Houston. Um, I love Houston's defense. I think that if Caleb Williams didn't look that good against Tennessee, I do think that Houston could rattle him just a tad bit. But I also do have Colts D on the back burner. All right. The projections are very close. They're 1 point apart. If Mahomes goes off and Worthy isn't on the receiving end of any of these touchdowns, I'm in trouble there. Okay. Now, the keys to victory here are the Texans got to put up points. That's always going to be my key to victory, number one. If they do, we're going to be looking pretty solid. The running backs get volume on my end. Okay. But the guy who I think has to be the X factor in this one has to be Chris Olave. You can't follow up a 2-point performance with another 2-point performance. As much as Dallas gets talked about their corners, they're opportunistic guys. I don't think they're lockdown guys. Gilmore, I think, was their best lockdown guy. Trayvon Diggs, Deron Bland is hurt. And who else do they have? They have somebody else that plays a decent cornerback now. So I'm not too worried about Dallas. I do think that Olave will get his dink and dunks. I don't know if they're going to get taken over the top, though. But if the Houston Texans dominate, then that's my path to victory. But I think matchup-wise, Devonta Smith, Jonathan Taylor, James Cook probably have the best matchups on the Krier side. On my side, I think the best matchup, it's hard. I don't really have great matchups. I would say that McBride, in theory, should have a good one. Jerome Ford, in theory, should have a good one. And maybe even Xavier Worthy. I don't see anybody in Cincinnati being able to keep up with this guy. And Cincinnati just looks really lost. All right, Nick, time to pick. Oh, and by the way, San Francisco goes against Sam Darnold. Well, Krier, listen, I like my team. I do think your team will definitely outperform what they did last week because I do think that you have some guys that can hit their upside here. But I feel confident in my team. I'm sure you like yours, but I got to pick myself here. One of the most anticipated matchups of this week has to go to the team that everybody fell in love with after the draft, Alex Matika versus Andre Jones. Okay, here we go. Let's get into it. This is the matchup of the week. Both teams start out 1-0. Andre had a very good performance right out the gate with going 2 running backs on Thursday night that scored TDs. Alex, we didn't know what to expect, and then Paul's team laid an egg in the second half. And the Dallas defense, boy, that Dallas defense. It's a lot of Cowboys here. Brock Purdy versus Dak Prescott. Purdy is against the Minnesota Vikings, and without Christian McCaffrey, I do think that he's going to have to throw some touchdowns in this one, and Minnesota's secondary can be exploited. Dakota Rain versus New Orleans. This is a great matchup. I'll go Dak. Tyreek and Chris Godwin versus CeeDee Lamb and Jalen Waddle. Tyreek, Thursday night, he'll score. He's always going to be projected really high. I love the setup, by the way. Chris Godwin against Detroit. Well, okay, I guess he had a good game because all these Bucs receivers went the fuck off. And people are victory lapping Chris Godwin as they probably should. Andre, how did you wind up with such a good, safe team, dude? Every year I feel like you just have the plug and play guys. CeeDee Lamb and Jalen Waddle. Lamb will go the fuck off. And I think he cancels Tyreek Hill. And Jalen Waddle versus Chris Godwin. With Miami's running backs dinged up, I'm actually going to go Waddle. Godwin is not a bad play, but I think the way you beat Detroit is over the top, and that's not his skill set. Give me Waddle. Pacheco against Cincinnati. Book him for another touchdown. This guy is more overcooked than something that's burnt. I was trying to think of something I couldn't. Derrick Henry. Cooked. This is going to be Todd Gurley on the Falcons when you had him, Andre. I'm just going to hate every time he falls into the end zone because if he's not running in a straight line, he looks like shit. I hate Derrick Henry, but it's the Vegas Raiders. Derrick Henry, stat line, 27 carries, 70 yards, 1 touchdown. Kyren Williams against Arizona. Well, no Blake Corum. That actually is good for you, Matika, because I do think that they're going to rely on him, especially without Puka Nacua. Ramondre Stevenson against Seattle. That is a tough matchup. Because of everything that I said about Derrick Henry scoring a touchdown, I got to go Andre. Dalton Schultz, Samuel Laporta. Give me Laporta. I think he'll have a good game this week. Tampa versus Detroit, low key, one of my favorite games to attack in the fantasy streets, by the way. Like. Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason, George Pickens, and Watson. I'm going to pause this right here. I'm going Jones and Mason by a mile. I don't know how Christian Watson will look like with what's his face, Malik Willis. I don't know how. Oh, George Pickens against Pat Surtain. Good luck with that. Arthur Smith also not playing him on every snap. What do you know? Aaron Jones will get the volume as long as he's out there. He's going to get the bulk of the carries. The rotations, by the way, Minnesota. Aaron Jones came out for 2 series, and then they gave Chandler a series, so it goes 2, 1, 2, 1. However, one thing I want to look at: how does Minnesota look if they're trailing? Does that mean more Ty Chandler involvement? It's almost like when Jamal Williams would back up Aaron Jones. I think that could be similar here in this situation. Jordan Mason's going to be absolutely fine, though, against Minnesota. He'll find the end zone. Tampa D versus Dallas D. I got to go Dallas by a mile. Holy crap. Okay. Time to pick a winner. I think Andre's receivers could keep up a little bit with Lamb and Waddle, and I think he wins the running back department, and I do love the flex advantage. I know he's the underdog, but I'm taking Andre in this one. Andre, I got to say, man, like, even your bench could start on pretty much a lot of other teams. Andre Jones going to 2-0.